Here's a hill that I'm willing to die on. Hiring a dev shop or an outsourced developer to build a tech startup's MVP is a company-killing mistake. Let me explain. I talk to about 100 companies every month, all customers of our startup platforms. And this is one of those mistakes that founders always defend. Oh, our case is going to be different because we found this really great agency overseas. We gave them some equity and they're charging us super low rates. I have not seen a single company that has actually succeeded with this approach. I have not seen one. I have 4 arguments for this. And if I have not convinced you by the end of this video, seriously, if most people in the comments disagree with this, I don't know, I'll get an embarrassing tattoo.
I will let you tattoo whatever you want on the stern of the old SS Bernard. Here we go. All right. Really?
Okay, so first argument. The core team in a startup should be able to get the company to its first $100,000 in revenue with no external skills. Building a B2B SaaS, well, you need B2B sales. You need someone who can build a product, who's probably a coder. You need someone who can run the business, do operations and compliance. Maybe you need someone from marketing too. Now, you don't need 5 people. You can group these skills into 2, maybe 3 people. But if you're missing one person, one of these skills, that means that you're not a venture backable company. If you're in a position where the only way you can build your core product is by outsourcing it, you are lacking one core skill required for your business. And a lot of companies who are missing that builder persona, who's likely an engineer or a developer,
Developers.
they figure out that they can just outsource that part of the business temporarily or even permanently. And that does not work because A, not being able to recruit that person is a red flag. It means that either your idea is bad or you weren't able to convince any engineers to work with you on it. It may mean that you have a small network with no engineers, which is also a red flag because how are you gonna build a team around you otherwise? In other words, raising money is gonna be nearly impossible. B, if you don't have an engineer on the team, your company probably doesn't know too much about product building. That means that whatever brief or sketch that you send out to that dev shop to build, well, it's probably not gonna be a great product. And C, and most importantly, building an MVP is really hard. Building software is really hard and it's really expensive because it's not just about building a spec sheet. It's about talking to your customers every step of the way. It's about putting your product in front of people, iterating on that product every week, sometimes every day, looking at usage metrics and acting on them. And this is the complete opposite of the dev shop model, which brings me to my second argument. Startups are completely incompatible with the dev shop model. I have good friends who run dev shops, and I have a lot of respect for wanting to run that type of business because I really could not. Because what you essentially do when you run a dev agency is hiring engineers, probably in a city or in a country where it's cheaper than where your customers are based, and then selling their time for more than it costs you. I'm Costa Rican. In San Jose, you can hire a senior engineer for, let's say, $48,000 a year, plus taxes and benefits. That's like $64,000 a year. Assuming, let's say, 160 productive hours per month, that's $33 an hour. If you can sell 80% of their time for $100 an hour, there's a markup of 140% on what that engineer costs you, which is still cheaper than the cost of that team in the States. We also traveled to Bangalore, India a few months back, which is another huge hub for outsourced dev work. But the point is, the currency for these companies is hours. Whatever quote you receive, maybe it's a per project or a fixed price, in the end, that quote was estimated based on the number of hours that the company estimates that this project will take. And for them, the quicker they finish, the better. You can't change an agency's business model. You're not gonna be their only client, even if they're offering you a discount, even if they own a percentage of the product. Their main motivation is gonna be staying in business, doing the business part that makes them profitable. We built Slidebean 1.0 in a tiny apartment in Chile, grinding every single day about features and pricing, learning, adjusting, and there's really no way to replicate that with an external team, less so with a foreign team, less so if you're working with your assigned project manager. We added generative AI to Slidebean last year, and this is another example. Anyone can build prompts for ChatGPT at this point, but this new feature required a bunch of different people from the team to work together to iterate almost on a daily basis, and even after the product launched, continuing to iterate on a daily basis based on user behavior. You can't really replicate that if you're working with an external agency that needs to operate out of briefs and spec sheets and their own deadlines, which are very different from yours. This connects to my third argument, which is really just money, the cost of things.
Bankruptcy!
Building our Slidebean MVP probably took about 6 months. My co-founders and I, we had a salary of $1,000 a month during this time, which means that our MVP cost around $20,000 all in. On a cheap $100 an hour rate that a dev shop would charge, Well, that would have been about $300,000. We consider ourselves talented, experienced. We consider that we deserved a bigger paycheck. And here's the point, or that is the point, that there is no human way to build a product for that amount of money with talented people or going through the steps that you have to go through for a startup MVP. The only reason our product exists today is because we took far below market salaries because our motivation was the future of the company, not our salaries that day. And that's the way co-founders operate for the most part. And those sweat equity rates only really apply to people who are betting their careers on this company. You might negotiate some equity for the dev agency that you hired, but that's gonna be an incentive for them. Their business does not depend on it, and well, that's the amount of dedication that you will get. More crucially, the reality of any tech product is that the very moment that you put customers in front of it, you're gonna have to change things. I've lost count of the amount of founders that I've seen who have spent all of their own money from their own savings to build this first MVP. The agency delivered the project according to the specs, the product works, but they can't change it. They can no longer afford to maintain it. And then after the product saw the light of day, maybe they immediately figured out the exact change that they needed in the sign-up page or in the onboarding, but it's too late. Now they have to go and get a new project quoted by the agency and pay for every hour for every change that they need.
This is a bummer, man. That's a bummer.
Now, before I make the last point, let me do this disclaimer exception thing. There are cases when a dev shop or dev agency applies. If you have an established team and you need to fast track a project, that's when you can hire a temporary extra pair of hands to spearhead that one aspect of the product. Going back to those core skills, the core skills to build this are in your team. Your company understands the product, the tech, but you need it faster. Then great, that's when you hire an extra pair of hands to help. As long as the project is overseen internally by your CTO or VP of product or somebody who can code, fix, change, adjust the product, then having parts of it built externally should not be a contingency, and I don't think that any investors will raise any eyebrows about it. Funny story, the first time we ever hired an outsourced developer for Slidebean was when we were building an MVP, and we didn't have a way to export people's presentations into PDF. So for the longest time, just to test that feature, we did it manually. We actually screenshot every slide and compiled a PDF like manually in our laptops when we started. So we hired an external developer to build that feature for us, but it was just this one component of the product, and again, our team or Jose, our CTO, understood perfectly how to fix it, correct it, adjust it when needed. So I think that's when it applies. Now, the last point here is quite simple. Most startups succeed because they have a unique insight about their industry and because there's something unique about their product. You can't buy uniqueness. And I know this is very controversial, but you usually can't buy uniqueness from the type of engineer that works at a dev shop. The best engineers probably work at startups or large tech companies because they pay better, because they're making a cool product. They're working for this mission that they could get behind. They're learning from very senior people. They get to build products that transform the world. Why do you think that ex-Googler companies can raise money so easily? If this team of developers quits a 6-digit salary and free lunch, insane benefits in order to take a risk and grind and build something from scratch, it must be the hell of an idea. The engineers in a dev shop might be good engineers, but they might not be the really ambitious kind that's willing to go the extra mile for anything, or the really creative type that will come up with brand new, crazy, effective way to solve middle-out compression.
We're gonna win even if I have to go into the auditorium and personally jerk off every guy in the audience.
Moreover, they make a salary from their employer. They have no stake in whatever project landed on their lap in a given month. Building a startup is not just about working your ass off. That's only half the answer. The other answer is this unique talent, unique skills that your team has or that they develop to build a product that's really better than anything else. We've made a whole video about why you should never make MBAs your co-founders. You should check that out. And our next video on this series is why you should never hire marketing agencies. So you should hit that subscribe button for more startup content. Oh, and by the way, let me know in the comments if I should get a tattoo.